I usually don't do conversations holding the camera. First off, if you're watching this, not listening to it. I have a feeling this is going to be pretty quick. Maybe it's not, but logistical reasons... logistical reasons aside, we're just going to do it. I don't have to say any of that, but I did. Classic. So, I don't know what this is called yet. Also very classic. I was thinking about it a bit, and then I just abandoned thinking about it while I was walking up the stairs here to do some other stuff in the studio. So, I just came back from a counseling session. I think I had a breakthrough that was pretty big, but also somewhat annoying. So there's a phrase that I heard once that really stuck with me, and that was that I don't have the luxury of falling apart. And that was it was a somewhat racial, somewhat class-driven statement, and I definitely felt it very hard. But it's not just that. I've also internalized that with cognitive ability, that I don't have the luxury of falling apart. So it kind of goes back to me comparing to things with the sentiment of ignorance is bliss. I feel like I don't have that escape of... I don't get bliss because I don't have the escape of ignorance. I don't get as much bliss. I have to reach my bliss in a different way. And that's really hard for me. Much like some people can shrug off all responsibilities, they can reconcile that with themselves and go on a bender or go do something bananas, and they can do that for that couple of days and then come back to that responsibility, or just their life being somewhat broken because of it. Whereas I don't get the respite of shrugging off those responsibilities because I'm too aware of how detrimental it will be long term. So with that knowledge and discipline of responsibility, or whatever you want to call it, it at times feels like I'm constantly working, constantly having to deal with myself and the world around me. And that's really difficult sometimes. So, the breakthrough that I guess I made, there's two. But one specifically is that in dealing with things like sadness or interruptions or feelings that are unwanted, I guess, difficult feelings, big feelings that are difficult to deal with, I know how to do that with anger. So, anger felt like an energy, whereas sadness felt like an absence of energy, and I had to really be pushed hard over the course of weeks to reframe that concept. That sadness is still energy, it is just a different kind of energy. That took a long time to get through to me. I've been able to redirect my anger into positive outlets that end up with something productive and healthy. For the most part, that's been a long road, but it was like the wind. It was like redirecting the wind, or like instead of going against the wind to like go with it, like it was just redirecting that type of energy, but the energy was there. So it was easy with that kind of energy. I'll call it fast or hot energy, rather than have that inside me by not doing things with it. I had to use that energy productively and it would dissipate. Whereas if I held on to that and I didn't I don't know, I guess it would be, to further the analogy, it would be like standing in the wind, into the wind, and not doing anything versus moving and having the wind carry you in one direction, like rather than just like standing in it, or just like false starts into the wind rather than like moving with the wind. But the energy source was the same, but how I moved or didn't move with it is why I had different results. Whereas sadness, if I call that a slow or cold energy, it feels like a weight, and it feels really debilitating for me for a lot of reasons. And it also feels like I can't do anything with it because it feels like an absence of energy to me. That's the way that I described it. It felt like an absence of energy. It drains my energy. But in reality, an emotion, if I equate emotion to energy, then it is still an emotion, right? So it still is an energy. And that energy is just slower and heavier, harder to move. So don't try to move it the same way you move anger. But you still have to move it, or move with it, or whatever. But I have to carry that weight slower to get somewhere with it, rather than letting myself just not move it at all, thinking about how this is an absence of energy or whatever. No, so that was the first hurdle and breakthrough, is that it is still energy. It is not the absence of energy. Sadness is an emotion that you feel really strongly at times, which is why you're seeking help to cope with that. But it is an energy nonetheless, and you can move that or move with it or do something with it, because it is energy, and it doesn't have to be an energy that is draining of other energies. If that makes sense, you can do something with that. I need to learn how to move that energy, or to use that energy, to move with it, move it, whatever, to move that weight over here so that it will eventually dissipate, so that it will melt. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I guess it would be, I keep thinking of analogies because it helps me sometimes, or just trying to explain it, but like, I mean, if that emotion was ice no matter what, and anger and sadness were the same amount of ice, like a huge ice chunk, anger energy is just like hot, and I can burn through that ice and melt it way quicker. Whereas, and then get back to like a neutral state of no ice, no water, it's all evaporated. Whereas with sadness, I could probably move that into, I would have to just, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. Now my analogies they're not working. They're not working because I haven't thought of them. They're coming up on the spot. But it was like I would have to just move that slowly from the shade into the sun, and just like slowly carry it or drag it, and it would slowly dissipate. No, that's not a good analogy. Because I think that I can get to a place where I should be able to dissolve it in the same time frame as anger. That is the hope. But I have to just approach it differently. So throw those analogies out the window. They're not working. But I have to just approach it differently. But that's already begun, because I can see it as energy that I can move with. I can use that energy, but I have to think of it as energy. And part of what we were discussing earlier on was that sadness can force you to do different things, can force you to slow down and reflect and take stock on things. And some of those things don't work for me because I reflect all the time anyway, which is a problem. But it can, I have to go back to my notes from the first couple times, but like reflect on, or on, man, I don't remember. Rest was one of them. Rest was a type of action, I guess. But there were other words. I don't remember. Anyway, the other breakthrough, which is annoying and frustrating, and this relates back to the not having the luxury to fall apart statement. The other breakthrough is that I can logic myself out of it. I have to. It doesn't seem like work to logic myself out of anger as much, because I've trained myself to do that, and I haven't been able to train myself to logic myself out of sadness. What I mean by that is that I know sometimes what I need to do when I am sad, but it feels like I am incapable of doing it. So logicking myself out of it is also just like having enough discipline and willpower to do those things, to say, hey, maybe, and I'm still trying to figure that out. But like, if I feel like I can't read because it's I'm too sad to do something too slow, then I need to push myself to do something faster, something different, like an actual, if I'm thinking about it as a physical movement, to do something different that will help with that sadness. The logic component is there in the fact that I know I have to do something. I can't just sit here and hold this weight. I need to do something productive. What is that thing that I can force myself to do? The thing is that it has to be, like with anger, it's easy. I've redirected the energy into productive and fun things. Sadness, though, is just a thing that is just so consuming and dark and feels bad, man. Way different than anger. It's not like anger necessarily feels fun, but it feels more fun than sadness. I'm trying to fix my string here right now, and that was silly. Anyway, yeah. I'm losing my train of thought all over the place. I need to redirect that energy. I need to recognize that it is energy. I need to have the willpower and strength and mental fortitude to just do something with that. Just to do it. There's that thing, just to do it. And that's where it goes back to the, like, it was like annoying to realize that I had this capability, because it puts more responsibility on me. More action, more responsibility, more hard work. And, like, I've said that I'm not afraid of hard work, but for some reason there's a couple things, obviously, like, that I'm not perfect. Like, there's certain things that I have allowed myself to not do, especially when it comes to like dietary stuff or like fitness stuff. Like, some of that is hard work, and just like, yeah, I haven't prioritized it because I have allowed myself to not. Anyway, I don't know what to call this thing yet, so I don't know how to wrap it up either. But yeah, hot and cold, fast and slow energy, slow moving energy. But I guess that would be the thing. Whereas, like, anger could be the same amount of energy, but it moves a lot further, a lot faster because it's lighter. Does that make sense? And it just takes me way longer. I guess that would be, let's say they're the same size. They're the same size, but they weigh different. And anger can move to that area of productiveness and health and resolving that feeling faster than sadness right now. Sadness takes longer to move. It is a heavier weight, but they are the same size. I don't know. I need to stop thinking of analogies. But the goal is to find something that moves that anger to that end at the same rate as I can move anger. Yeah, I don't know how to overhaul that right now. I'm still figuring that out, so maybe there'll be a part 2. But either way, this was somewhat helpful, for sure. Not somewhat, it was helpful.